Welcome to Killer Women with your host, best-selling author Danielle Girard. The Killer Women Vodcast is pleased to be a part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. To learn more about Danielle and her books, visit her at www.daniellegirard.com, and to access all of our vodcasts, go to youtube.com/Authors on the Air. And now, Danielle's next killer woman.
Welcome to Killer Women Podcast, a proud member of Authors on the Air Global Network. Today's guest is Samantha M. Bailey. Sam is the USA Today and #1 nationally bestselling author of Woman on the Edge, which has sold in 11 countries to date. She's also a journalist and freelance editor. Her work has appeared in Now Magazine, The Village Post, The Thrill Begins, and The Crime Hub, among other publications. Watch Out for Her, which is her new release, is on sale April 26th, which will actually be happening before you see this live podcast or recorded podcast. And this is her second novel. Sam lives in Toronto, where she can usually be found tapping away at her computer or curled up on her couch with a book. A woman after my own heart. Welcome, Sam. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So fun. Okay, so first and foremost, tell our listeners a little bit about Watch Out for Her.
So Watch Out for Her, my second novel, my pandemic book of my heart, is the very first book I've set in Canada. So it takes place in Toronto and Vancouver. And it is the story of a middle-aged mother named Sarah Goldman, who has been raising her 6, almost 7-year-old son ever since he was born. She's been a stay-at-home mother ever since he was born. And she comes to a point where she really wants to find herself again, that piece of herself that she lost. She is a photographer, and so she hires a babysitter for the summer, a 22-year-old medical school student named Holly Monroe, to take care of Jacob so she can return to her first love of photography. And at first, it seems like the perfect arrangement. Jacob and Holly adore each other. And Sarah and Holly form this really special, very fast bond because they're both looking for something they find in each other. And then Sarah, who's a voyeur, sees something that she can't unsee. And she feels like she needs to escape from Holly. And she and her family move from Vancouver to Toronto. And when they move into their new home, she finds hidden cameras everywhere. And she has to wonder if Holly isn't so far behind after all.
That's awesome. Well, and I know that the whole nanny cam thing is something I want to talk about because it is it's a little beyond my mother because my kids are a little older. It wasn't such a thing, but yeah, it's such a phenomenon. It was super creepy to get to that Vancouver place and to have Sarah realize that is not a smoke detector. That is a freaking camera. So was there a seed for this story? Like, where did you get did something happen? Where did the idea come from?
Well, and I have to say, I do want to give a disclaimer. I have never used nanny cam.
I know you use a good disclaimer to give.
It is a good disclaimer.
No one will ever work for you.
Yeah, no. My kids are a little older. I don't need them, but no, I've never used nanny cams. I can't lie. I mean, the urge was there. And I think that's where the seed of the story came from, but it came from many different things. It wasn't a lightning bolt moment the way Woman on the Edge was that just hit me. This was a culmination of thoughts about what was I going to do for my second novel, because there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
As you know, on a second novel, on every novel, but a second novel after, the nice success of a debut. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I didn't want to disappoint myself. And the pandemic it was right before the pandemic as I started thinking of it. And then the pandemic hit as I was actually writing it. So the idea came from the idea of identity and motherhood.
Yeah.
Right? Where are we as mothers? Where do we find ourselves? Where's our place? Where's our own separate self? Our children come first, of course they do, and we give them our everything.
Yeah.
But how do we manage it so we don't completely lose ourselves in their lives? So there was that. And until the pandemic, I was lucky because that wasn't something I struggled with, because I did find a balance, and that's a whole other story, not the pandemic.
Right. And then, but actually that, you know, I think, and I was going to talk, I mean, this is sort of this natural segue into my next question, because Woman on the Edge also deals very strongly, obviously, with the issues of motherhood, which I think resonates so much for, and I think it resonates for men as well, particularly, of course, men who have children, and therefore their children have mothers. But it is a thing, you know, I think there's a balance issue for some men, but it really strikes us. And I think everything we've read about the pandemic is how much sort of more amplified the impact was for women, right? Because we ended up sort of having to, you know, if we had jobs, balance them with homeschooling our children. And boy, that was, I mean, I'm like you, my children are much older. One of them actually came home from college in the pandemic, which is another sort of stress, but not little. The women who had to, you know, have school age children, elementary school or middle school age children at home would have been incredible. So I think it's a very strong, and it comes through very strongly in both of your books. And it's a very, like you said, it's a very women focused issue, and a big one. Even those of us, like you said, I mean, you have a balance, but it's not always easy, right?
Had a balance.
Right. Exactly. How's the balance now?
Yeah, no, I still am struggling to kind of regain the balance. When the pandemic hit, my kids were home. They were 9 and 12 at the time. They're almost 12 and almost 15 now. And it was not just, you know, the physical aspect of being there for them. It was the emotional aspect of being there for them. And so all of that, I did end up putting it into the book, and I did end up identifying and connecting with Sarah in ways I hadn't expected because of it.
Yeah.
And then
9 and 12 is young. That's young. You were still in it. Yeah.
At the time, they felt very independent, but then, of course,
yes,
there were just so many things that changed. But the other things with the book is the idea. I am a worrier of a mother.
You know, I might gather that a little bit from this book. Sarah definitely worries a lot about, and I think that's another mom thing. So yeah, tell us about what sort of things does Sam worry about?
Yes, well,
everything.
I do, but not. I mean, and not to the extent that Sarah worries, and not. You know, I don't have the extreme anxieties that she has, but there are reasons. Sarah believes she doesn't know what's happening.
Right.
Secrets are being kept from her, but she doesn't know who's keeping these secrets and what is happening in her own house, and that can turn you
100%
paranoid.
We feel it her, and sometimes it proves to be something not anything, but sometimes it proves to be something, and even when her husband agrees with her, then you really can feel her like panic rising, right? Because he's a good husband. He doesn't sort of dismiss her all the time, which I appreciated, but he's trying to balance out her worries. But when he jumps in on the worry train, we're like, oh God, I was like, wow, Holly is definitely stalking them. That was my thought for sure. And then of course I won't say anymore.
I know, it's so hard.
Nothing is what you think it is. And actually, so let's talk about the women again though, because Holly also, your heart, even though you think she's a crazy stalker, my heart breaks for her too, right? Talk about self-worth issues. I mean, Holly tell us a little bit about Holly.
Well, that's interesting. It goes right back to your question about what was the seed for this book. A lot of it has to do with self-worth and the expectations that other people place on you. Mm-hmm. Both Sarah and Holly especially, because she's quite young, have so many expectations placed on them by other people. And I think and this is something I thought a lot about as I was writing this book, that when other people place expectations on you on how you're supposed to live your life and the choices you're supposed to make, what then happens is you're so afraid to disappoint anyone that you keep secrets and you hide things, and you hide things from yourself. And then your self-worth starts to diminish because you can't trust your own choices and your own gut instincts of what is right for you, because there's so much noise.
Right.
Around
Especially when you're young, especially if this happens to you as a kid, which it does for Holly. Clearly, you know, her mother's gone. She has a stepmother, and she is all she wants is her father's, you know, his approval. That is
his approval, which is which is all tied up in this family business.
Right.
So if you work in your family business and you're responsible
for
growing that business, but you don't want to be in that business, and that's not your dream, and that's not your passion, then what that does to your self-esteem and your self-worth is it destroys it. And so you're very susceptible to anyone who gives you an ounce of love and attention.
Yeah. And it's 100% clear what, you know, how Sarah and Holly are drawn together. And the other thing I think that's interesting about Sarah as a character is there's a different level in, you know, in my experience, and again, this, I'm, you know, it's all general, but when you have two children or three or four or five, there's this, you know, all the worry has to dissipate. You can only really pay attention to so many moving, you know, parts, to so many, you know, and I've got two children, and they provide me with plenty of concerns, but I'm never worried 100% about one of them at a time. But when you have one child, you know, from my friends who have only children, I notice that it's so much, you know, more exaggerated, that sort of worry on that one child, which makes Sarah's sort of focus on Jacob, you know, feel very genuine, right? Of course. And that, you know, she has a previous trauma. So she's already been, you know, she's the sort of fear of loss, of something happening to Jacob is amplified for good reasons. You know, she's,
yes, that's such a good point. It's almost the way it is. I wonder if with like a first book, then maybe once you said how many books? You have 15?
I have 15.
So 15 for you. With that 15, like, do you now find it like you have to spread your attention over all those books and not just that one book that you wrote? So do you find that?
No.
Okay, no. Danielle, you're not supposed to tell me that. What you're supposed to say is, by the 15th, you're so calm, and it's like having 6 children. It's like having 7 children. It's fine. Everything's fine.
I think that the difference is that, you know, the idea is that your books become, you know, they just become past news in a way that your children don't. Like, you know, it's like the first book is so far back that it's as though if you have to love your new child the most, you know. So, okay, lots of things get easier, Sam. It's going to be so easy. Next time it's going to be even easier. It talked to me at book 12. I am sure you're going to be like, piece of cake. I wrote it last night.
My agent, Jenny Bent, gave me, I think it's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten from anybody.
Yeah.
And she said, because she's brilliant, and you know, she said,
I love that.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She said, whether it's your first book or your 7th, it never gets easier.
Yeah.
And she's had over 20 years in this business, and it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it calmed me down. It calmed me down. And it's like that with kids, whether it's your first or your 7th, it never gets easier, because when you love something and you want something and you have that passion and your self-worth is tied to it, back to the whole concept of self-worth, when your self-worth is tied to all of that, then it's hell. Basically, it
should make the people that leave 1-star reviews really think about it, right? Of course, you're not going to love every book, and I have no problem with that. But I think, you know, if you hate a book so much, I think walk away. You know, walk away, because it is somebody's baby. It's somebody's baby. One of the things I do think gets easier, so you know, the positive side of this experience is that I think it's easier to find that it's still hard to work. It's still, you sit down and you're still like, oh God, can I do this again? But it's easier to remember oh yeah, I can do this because I have done it this many times. You know what I mean? It's like it's not like changing a diaper where you really can do it in your sleep.
Yeah.
I wish it had gotten for me to that point, and maybe there are people that do that, but it does get like, oh yeah, okay, you always feel this way, you always feel insecure, you always feel lost, you always think you can't do it again, but then
It's not a bad thing though, maybe, because that fear is what fuels how hard we work.
I think that is 100% true.
Yeah.
I think if you're not a little bit afraid, you're probably not working hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So speaking of your publishing career, because this is your second book and your first book came out in 2020?
Yeah. Well, so it came out.
Oh, in Canada.
In Canada in November 2019. And I got the launch of my dreams that all my other debut author friends didn't get, whose books came out in 2020. So I got it first here, and it was everything that I could have ever dreamed of.
Yes.
But it came out in the US March 3rd, 2020.
Yeah.
So 1 week before and I'm actually a dual citizen, so I'm American too. Yeah. And it came out March of 2020, and everything, of course, our dreams turned to dust and everything was shut down for all those things that we were all so excited about. However, we all pivoted and we all banded together. You're doing this now, and
yeah, I mean, it's there was a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of things that came out of the pandemic that are wonderful. But it was and books actually sold pretty well. I think there was more people read. I think, we were stuck at home. But launch stuff was just such a bummer. Okay, so you launched officially then in 2019, because you're with a Canadian. I mean, you're actually with Simon & Schuster Canada, so it's a Canadian publisher. So tell us about before that. Like you've obviously been writing for a long time because you're as a journalist, that was your job or is your job. But so when did you write your first book? Where is that book today? Tell us about kind of how you got here.
All right, I'm trying to do this in as brief a time as possible. So I wrote my first short story when I was 10 years old. Yeah. And I'm going to be 49. So just to let you know how long this journey has taken. Yes. I will be 49 at the end of May. So 10 years old, I write a short story, I submit it to a publisher, and it was my very first rejection. So I learned very young that I was going to get rejected. I did not anticipate getting rejected as often as I did.
It still happens, even, right? Happened. It's, you don't get published and then stop getting rejected. I think people think that, and that is unfortunately not the case.
It's part of the biz.
Totally.
So I wrote all through high school, I wrote all through university. I kept writing, but it wasn't until I was 29 years old that I wrote my first full-length novel, which was an edgy rom-com. I used to write edgy rom-coms. I found a New York agent, my first agent, really quickly. And I was like, this is it. I'm that overnight success that you hear about, not on social media. It didn't even exist back then, but I was like, oh my God, this is fabulous, fantastic. It was resoundingly rejected by all editors. And so put that to the side. I wrote another.
Done that. Yep.
Yeah. Everyone has their story. Everyone has like their path, and we have our bruises, and we have to have our bruises.
Yes.
So I wrote another edgy rom-com. It too was rejected. My agents and I, we amicably parted ways, and I was trying to think, what do I do next? So I knew then I was never going to give up on it, getting a traditional publishing deal.
Good for you.
There was no way. I would have, rather died than give up on this dream, because I was not going to live with regret, and I wanted this so much. Good for me.
That's what you have to do, though. I mean, that is it. It is, you can stop. It's my dad used to call it perseverance of purpose. You cannot quit. There's no way to do this if you quit, right? Okay. So so edgy rom-com.
Edgy rom-com. So I don't even remember how old I was. And then I wrote 2 more books, and they started to get darker and darker. They started to become women's fiction and darker and darker.
Yeah.
And
is this about when your children were born? Because that's when my book started to get darker.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. It's so nice to hear that, because that is so me.
Totally.
And then I probably spent about 8 years trying to find another agent for those books. And that didn't work again. So that's not working. And then I wrote Woman on the Edge. And then I signed with my agent. And then
so you wrote it and you got your agent with that book.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then finally, so that was my 5th book.
Yeah.
And apologies. Can you hear my dog barking?
I have one too, so don't worry about it. This is, we're at home, clearly, right? There's no office.
He might go on for a little while. He probably sees like the mail person coming.
Exactly.
Or a leaf is blowing.
I know. I hear you. Those the little ones. Yeah.
Yes. So with that book, I signed with my agent, and we spent 3.5 years revising it. We really hardcore revised it. Not 3.5 years of solid writing, but with time in between. But we both wanted to make sure that when I went on submission, that this time I was not going to get rejected. That this time, this was going to happen, and it did in ways that I still cannot believe, because when you have spent 20 years.
I know, that's that's important to, let's say that again. That is what it takes. You spent 20 years. I kind of got goosebumps. Pursuing your dream, and you made it happen. I wish I had a copy of Woman on the Edge right here because the cover of that is also. Do you have one?
Oh, of course. No, it's so sad. I have like 1,000 copies of.
I know. Show us the cover, because that's a really fabulous cover too.
This is my mass market.
That. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I love that. Yeah, that's a fabulous. And that was everywhere. I was very impressed. I saw that book. I saw the cover, a good 100 times before I finally saw before I saw the woman behind the cover. So it was everywhere, which is wonderful. And I think that's our community. But that
I was gonna say when that it happened for me, I didn't do that alone. I had so many people believe in me. I had so many people helping me. Yes. I had a whole world of authors, readers, bookstagrammers, librarians, my agent, my editor, my publishing team, my friends, my family. There's no way.
It takes that. But and I agree. And thank God, I think our community is incredibly generous, incredibly, what's amazing, I think, is that there is so much sort of natural, we really want each other to succeed. It's not like a reader reads 4 books a year. Readers read, you can't write as many books as your readers want to read. So it's very natural to want to support.
You can.
No, I cannot. I mean, I don't even write one a year. So yes, somebody could be occupied with my books for a good 2 months, but then they need other authors. So it's so fun to get to appreciate, read, celebrate other authors. And so that's part of, that's probably why I'm doing this. But the truth still is, Sam, that when it comes down to the hours spent making that book, creating that book, you're alone. You did it alone. And then you got, you had the people around you who are like, you can do this. You're going to make this happen for yourself, but you still do it alone. And I think that's another thing that it is the hardest part of our job, is that we can get all this wonderful, feedback. We can brainstorm with each other, but really you're by yourself.
Yeah. In the end, it does require some serious inner strength and drive and determination and stubbornness, and self-mutilation and narcissism, and all those things that require someone to be an artist of any kind and to be a writer.
I think that's right. So okay, so we can boil this all down for us. What's the one piece of advice? You people who've been writing for 10 years and they have yet to sort of make it happen. What's your advice?
Okay, so it's not just one piece of advice. I'm sorry, I'm a long talker.
Bring it. We need it. We want
it. Long talker. Okay, first of all, actually, I think one of the most important things to take in is that, and you said this, like it's your journey. It is your journey. It is your path. It's not a competition. And it's not a race of any sort. the only person that I think you need to compete with is yourself. You just need to better yourself, and that every author who's out there is there as your people. They are there as your support. They are there to admire. They are there to learn from. It doesn't matter, when someone else gets a film deal or whatever it is. It's like you said, we are sometimes even more excited for them than we would be for ourselves, because it shows all the endless possibilities, because we know how hard they've worked to get where they are, and it's awesome to see people get what they deserve. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's that. I think really understand that it may not be fast. I hope it doesn't take 20 years. I really hope, but you don't know how long it's going to take.
Right.
It's not going to be easy. That no matter what, it is never ever going to be easy. It doesn't matter if you're a #1 New York Times bestseller. It doesn't matter.
No,
it is
so
never ever. Yeah, it's never going to be easy. And believe in yourself. You have to. If you have a story to tell, you need to tell it, but you need to be open to critiques. Yeah. For me, the magic is in the revisions. I need people to nail me to the wall. I need to be told what's not working. I can't always see it myself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Good critique partners are so key, but that's a tricky thing too, right? Because there is a point for me after a draft is done when, I hand it over to somebody who I love and trust, and you get your feedback, but even that you have to sort of filter, right? Like, I have to sort of like spend the time and the energy to be like, does that really resonate with me? They may find the right thing that's off, but their suggestion may not be quite, it's so much of it is, in fact, this is such a great quote. My daughter had found something in this writing, which is that it's schizophrenic, that the process of writing starts creatively and ends critically. So we literally are like, we have to go to the two extremes of sort of how you use your brain. And I think this implies it makes us all a little crazy, which I'm not going to argue with.
Oh, writers, we're not completely stable. We can't be.
Just look at our characters and you'll know, right?
Yeah, and the kinds of things you like. I mean, but I don't think anyone is completely stable. What does that even mean? But I think as writers, no, but that's what makes us so fun.
Oh, we are so much fun.
And that's why we're so bonded, because
we
see in each other what, just the things in ourselves that are so quirky, if you want.
And we kind of, the one things that you sort of shield from like regular people. You're just you're on full display for your writer friends, right? You're like, oh yeah, that's me. That's the crazy.
Yes.
That's all really good advice. And I don't know if I interrupted you.
No, fine. It's fine. Don't worry. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, it's, that's what I was going to say, like what you said before though, I think having any knee-jerk reaction in publishing is something you have to learn to step away from, because it is very easy. It's very easy to respond to something on social media. It's very easy to respond to an email or a comment. It's so easy because all those feelings, and we are emotional, very passionate people as writers. Yes. So advice too is just take a moment.
Yeah.
Step back and always remember that if you are looking for a traditional publishing deal, or if you're an indie author, self-published, whatever it is, then you're also getting into this as business.
Yeah, that is right. And that's another schizophrenic part of this business, which is why it is nice to have an agent that you really trust, because to have somebody sort of sift through that business part of it is hugely important. But
everything.
It's multifaceted. This whole thing is really, now do you hear my dog?
Yes.
One of them, I have three. So hopefully they don't. I do. Hopefully they don't.
I've seen the pictures, of course.
Yes. And in Montana, you like one for like a normal city is, you have three here. So
you live in a novel I now want to write. Your 3 dogs in Montana.
You should, like the creepy woods story. I think you could do it, Sam. I think come visit and I'll take you around the areas where you could set your next book, which actually brings us to my next question. And that actually, I'm going to just say first, I hate this. It's like we're celebrating. This is what we're celebrating, right? we're celebrating this. It's here, it's out, it's live, it's real. And now immediately we're going to be like, okay, what's next? Because we've read this one now, and we want to know when's the next one. Are you working on?
Well, and I think as writers, though, we're so compelled to write. It's such a compulsion. It is our passion that we need to be working on the next thing. Totally. We have to be. So of course I've been working on the next thing. It's beginning stages. It's kind of that magical moment where I'm just, figuring it all out, just, trying to, my editor is trying to figure out, okay, what is it we want this story to be? So I will say, it is a thriller.
Okay.
It is, I think at this point, it is very dark and twisted. It may be, well, I wouldn't say it's the most dark and twisted, but it's definitely a little sexier than my previous work.
And it is red lips as she says that. She's like, I'm like, okay, we're ready. That husky voice.
Yes, my husky voice and my 5 foot tall, really.
Yeah. Well, you seem bigger right now. It's awesome.
Because I'm so loud. And it's about women seeking something different than what they have, and all the dangers and risks that come with that.
Which is just right up your alley. That is right on brand for Sam Bailey. I love that. Well, that's exciting. Okay, so, and we have no idea. You're in the beginning stages, so we're gonna love on this one.
Love on that one,
which is out. And you have to go find it. And I love this cover, and I hate my light that picks up all the, but I love this creepy. I actually wanted to do this like as a photograph, but I have no rain slicker. I only have, when you're in Montana, it doesn't really rain, it only snows. So
oh my God, did you see Tessa Weger? It's Tessa Weger, whose latest novel, Dead. Did you see her? I mean, all the bookstagrams, everyone's been so amazing, but that a fellow author
I know.
Went to all the work. She doesn't need to do that for me, and she did that for me.
But she celebrates it. And Tessa was on the show a few weeks ago. She's wonderful. This is the easiest job. I mean, it's like the best job. I need to be writing books too, but I'm like, I could just do this. Like I could just get books and read them and then talk to amazing female authors. My male friend authors are like, is there any room for another man? And I'm like,
we do. I have to say the female authors. Yeah, we probably should let the guys like bring them in a little bit more. There's these amazing.
Oh, there are.
Dan Calla. We've got all these awesome
S.A. Crosby. There's tons of them.
David Bell.
I know. Shout out to the men. But
shout out to the men.
But for now, there's so many killer women that I forgot. You gotta podcast. No killer men at the moment. But maybe
it sounds different.
It does. Sorry guys. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so watch out for her, April 26th. So it's available now. Now tell us, where can we find you on the web? Where's your social media?
My socials?
My socials. What are your socials?
My socials. So I'm having a new website design that I'm really hoping will go live next week. You can look at my old one, but my new one is I love it so much. I'm really excited. It's SamanthaMBailey.com. And Twitter and Instagram is SBaileyBooks. And then on Facebook, Samantha Bailey Author. Okay. I must admit, I'm on Instagram and Facebook quite a bit more than Twitter. But I do love to connect with my readers. So please come on by, follow me, hang out on my feed.
And go and for sure go leave a very nice, fabulous review for this fabulous book, which was such a one night read. If I could have gotten to it, read it any faster, I would have. But it was really so much fun, and it was such a treat to have you, Sam. I want huge things for this. I feel like they could make this into a fabulous movie. What's Netflix Canada looking at? Hopefully they're paying attention.
Netflix Anywhere is good for me.
That's right. Exactly. Netflix Anywhere is good for all of us.
Netflix Lifetime. Listen, anyone, I would love it. I would love it, as we all would. So that was
God. So fun. Well, anyway, this is Killer Women. I'm your host, Danielle Girard. You can find me at daniellegirard.com, on Facebook at author Danielle Girard, and on Instagram at Danielle Girard Books. I think about that. And I have Twitter, but I'm terrible. I can't limit myself to that many characters. It never works out for me. So, and this is Sam Bailey. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Killer Women.
Thank you. Thank you so much.